Before I start talking about inspired action, I want to tell you a little story. So there's this guy sitting out on his front porch, and his car pulls up, and two guys get out, and they're dressed in uniform, and they come up and they start talking to him, and they're from the National Guard, and they say that the river nearby is going to be flooding here in the next couple days, and that this whole area is going to end up underwater. And he says, well, don't worry about me, guys. God will take care of me. So, sure enough, the water starts to rise. Next thing he knows, his whole front yard's underwater, and water keeps getting deeper and deeper. A couple more guys come by in a big four-wheel drive truck, and they say, come on, jump in. You know, the water's still coming up. You know, we'll get you out of here. He says, no, guys, don't worry about me. God will take care of me. So, a little bit more time goes by, and the water keeps coming up, and he's to the point where he can't sit on his front porch anymore because it's underwater. So he's up on the second floor, and he's peering out the window, and these guys come by in a boat, and they're like, the water's coming up. Here, jump in the boat. We'll save you. We'll get you out of here. He says, no, guys, don't worry about me. God will take care of me. A little bit more time goes by. It starts raining. The second floor's got water in it now. He's sitting out on his roof, and a helicopter comes by. And they're like, you know, they're willing to drop down a rope to him or a ladder so that he can save himself and get out. And he says, no, guys, don't worry about me. God will take care of me. So the helicopter flies off, and guy drowns. So he gets up to the pearly gates, and you know, St. Peter's letting him in, and God happens to be walking by at the time, and he says, God, why did you forsake me? Why did you let me drown? God says, well, I sent the guys in the car and the truck and the boat and the helicopter. What more do you want me to do? So today I'm going to talk about inspired action. And we're going to talk about inspiration and how you can tap into your inspiration and how you can tell if it's your inspiration talking to you or if it's your ego talking to you. And then we're going to talk about how to take action on what you find out. And for me, I struggled with this for a long time. And I struggled with the idea of, do we actually need to take action, or can we just manifest what we want to manifest through, you know, prayer and right thinking? And as I thought about this, I looked to Jesus, and I looked at his life, and I thought about the miracles of, you know, turning water into wine, and the loaves and fishes where he, you know, 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish, feed 5,000 people, have more left over than you started with. And I thought, for me personally, if I'm going to feed, you know, bread and fish to 5,000 people, I'm either going to have to run to the grocery store or get out a rod and reel. I'm not going to be able to just make fish appear. I haven't figured that out yet for myself. So I know if you get to the point where you're at the consciousness level of Jesus, that you can just create stuff out of nothing. But then I looked at Jesus' life and what he did, and for the 3 or so years that he was ministering, he didn't just sit there and wait for people to come to him. He traveled, and he went from town to town, from city to city, talking to people. So even Jesus, this person who was able to create something out of nothing, didn't spend his time just waiting for things to come to him. He went out and got stuff done. So it makes me think that maybe we need to do a little bit of both. And then I read the book Zero Limits by Joe Vitale. And he talked about inspired action, and how when we clear our minds and we are open to the messages from God, he gives us ideas and opportunities, and then we can do stuff to make that happen, you know, to fulfill God's will in our lives. So I think, what is inspiration? And I think of communication with God comes in three forms. First is prayer, where we talk to God. And then second is meditation, where we connect with God. And then third is inspiration, where God talks to us. And in Unity, we all believe that God is continuing to talk to people, that didn't stop 2,000 years ago, and that all of us have the ability to hear what God has to say, and all of us have the ability to tap into that universal mind and the universal knowledge of the world. So then the question is, how do you know if, when you hear something, when you hear that little gut instinct or whatever you want to call it, is that your ego talking, or is that God giving you a message? And for me, I think the way to figure that out is to send love to the idea. So think about the idea, maybe take it into meditation, and send love to it. And think about, loving this idea. And give it some time, and then if the idea is still there, then you can decide, okay, this is really something from God. This is something that I need to do, and you can experience that. If after sending love to it, if the idea goes away and it doesn't come back to you, then it was probably your ego trying to get you to do something that you didn't necessarily need to do. But not that that's a bad thing either. There's a lot of people out there who have done very well by forcing their will onto the universe and onto the world, and they have become very successful. But I think the step past that is letting go and letting God, and being open to what God wants us to do. And I think when we can follow our inspiration, then we're able to connect with God, and we're able to follow what God has in store for our lives. And I think inspiration is all around us. It's not just left for the people that spend all day in prayer and meditation. It's available for everybody. The Bible verse that I have today is Matthew 5:45. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust. So sometimes when we look out at the world and we see people who are successful in one area of their lives or in several areas of their lives, but we don't see them as being very spiritual, and we wonder, well, why is that? Why are they able to do that? Why is somebody able to become rich and famous, but not be spiritual? What do they know that we don't know? And I think what they do and what they've been able to do in their lives is tap into that inspiration, and then they take action on it. Donald Trump, who very successful financially, but maybe not the most spiritual person in the world. One of his favorite sayings, and one of the things that he lives by, is trust your gut. So that inspiration, that voice from God, we're all able to tap into it. It's not something that we have to, all we have to do is be listening for it. And the more you listen for it, the better you get at hearing it. And I think people like Donald Trump are really good at hearing it, even if they're not, spiritual in other ways. And I don't really know what his spiritual practice is, but so it's open to all of us. It's there for everybody. When Matthew said that he sendeth the rain on the just and the unjust, I don't really think he was talking about rain. It's that those opportunities and that inspiration is available to everyone. Um, God doesn't play favorites. He doesn't, I don't think God judges us for what we've done or what we're thinking about doing, and those opportunities and that inspiration is available to all of us at any time. And all we have to do is be open to it and see it. And then the second part of that is, once you have that inspiration, is doing something about it. We live in a physical world. We're spiritual beings, but we're living in a physical world. And Neville Goddard said that if you want to be able to create something in your life, you have to believe it first. And I think because we're in a physical world, the idea of doing something physical, it makes the belief a lot stronger. So I think that's the connection between the inspiration and the action, is that if we really want to believe something, if we can take action to make that happen, it increases our belief. It's kind of like the couple that, they were kids that all moved away and gone to college and graduated and moved to other towns. And so they decided they were going to buy a smaller house and downsize a little bit. And they really wanted to start eating a little healthier. So September, when they bought the house, and they decided that they were going to have a beautiful garden and they were going to grow flowers and vegetables. So they had a vision, and every day, while it was still warm enough, they would sit out back and they would vision their garden. And then as it got a little colder, they would sit inside and they'd look out the window and they would vision their garden. And they kept doing this. And then it got to be the end of the summer, and their son came back, came home to visit, and he was really excited because he wanted to see the garden that they had done. And and it's about September, so they've been in the house for about a year. And when their son comes home and he looks outside and there's no garden, and he's like, "Mom, Dad, I thought you guys were doing a garden." They're like, "Well, we've been visioning about it every day for a year now, and it still hasn't shown up." So we need to get out there and take action. We need to get out there and do the things to make what we want and what we believe happen. Joe Vitale said, when he was talking about inspired inspiration, he said that the universe likes speed. Most of us, and if we haven't had this experience ourselves, we probably know somebody that has. You had an idea, and you didn't do anything about it, and then a year later you see an infomercial talking about whatever the idea was. And if this hasn't happened to you, your Uncle Bob will remind you of the time when he had the idea for the clapper, but just didn't make it happen. So we need to do those things to make, to take our inspiration and to put it out there in the world. And the thing that I think stops a lot of people is they think it's going to be work. And it's true, you are going to have to do stuff, but it's not going to be work. Back to the gardening, if you talk to somebody that has a garden and that loves to garden, that's what they want to do. It's not work for them. My mother is one of those people. And she would love nothing more than just to go outside and play in the dirt all day. So it's not work. It's something she loves. It's something just she enjoys doing. I know a lot of teachers feel this way, where teaching is a lot of work, but when they're in there and they're in front of the classroom, they just love connecting with the students and teaching and doing that, and that's what they enjoy. So it doesn't feel like work because it's doing what you love. And I think that's part of the inspiration, is God's not going to give you, he's not going to give you something to do that you're not going to enjoy doing and you're not going to have the tools to do. Now, there may be things that, you don't have all the resources, but those are all going to show up when you need them. The people that you need to help you to finish whatever it is that you're supposed to do will show up in your life at just the right time. But acting on those things quickly, I think, is key to making it happen. And then one of my favorite quotes is, "Stop shitting all over yourself." Yes, it's shoulding. And I know I've done this, and I'm sure we've all done this, where we say, well, I should do this, or I should do that. Well, if it's something that you really think you should do, and you really think that doing whatever this thing is going to make your life better, why are you not doing it? And I think for a lot of people, the answer is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of what's going to happen. Fear that this may not work. And I think that some of that fear comes back to deniability. If we don't do our best and we don't do what we think we're on this earth to do, then we can say, well, I didn't try my hardest, or it's okay if I fail because I didn't work that much, or I didn't want it that much. So it feels safer to not put yourself out there because you're not doing everything that you could do. But the flip side of that is, if you aren't willing to try to do whatever it is that you feel inspired to do, it's never going to get done. If you don't start, you're never going to finish. If you aren't willing to step out of your comfort zone and do that thing that you feel inspired to do, it's never going to get done. So a lot of people don't do it because they're afraid of failing, but by not doing it, you're guaranteed not to succeed. So, in conclusion, come up with a vision. Come up with an idea of what you want, a clear vision. And you can, be like the couple and you can vision your garden every day. And once you come up with that vision, you can go into prayer and you can thank God. Don't ask God for what you want. Thank God for what you have. Go into meditation, connect with God, and then listen for the inspiration. Listen for that message from God so that you can know what is yours to do. And then when you get that message, when you get that inspiration, when you get that feeling of, okay, this is my next step, then do it. And don't worry about the fear. You'll get over that. Once you get started, the fear will go away, mostly. And once you get started, if you realize that you're not going in quite the right direction, you can always change your direction. You can always you can adjust and get back onto the path. But if you're just sitting there, you can't change your direction if you're not moving. So listen for that inspiration and then step out, embrace the fear, and do whatever it is that you need to do. Thank you.